Get my 6. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the most awesomest homesteading channel on planet Earth that typically doesn't have anything whatsoever to do with homesteading off the grid. On this very beautiful fall-like afternoon, we are at Camp Bigfoot Sasquatch at a different angle. Instead of being up in front of the tent, we're down over the hill to the side in the spooky, creepy, potentially him, her, it, or they woods. And we're going to tell some Bigfoot Sasquatch stories. So, one's mine, going back, 15, 25, 35, 45, 35, 35 to somewhere between 35 and 40 years ago. It's a long time ago. And we do have a viewer-submitted story. I'm going to read you that one first. It's a little bit shorter. It's out of the great state of Kentucky from one of my fellow Appalachistanians. So, folks, if you have a story you'd like to have shared with folks, either, through credit to you or anonymously, if you want us to keep you anonymous, you can send us your story here to the channel. The email is crazylake@mail.com. You must give us your permission to share it. This particular story was left in the comments section, so it's public domain. And in case you missed it, I'm going to share it with you. It was submitted by Stephanie Lynn Fryman, 212. Hello, Stephanie Lynn Fryman, 212. And by the way, folks, that is her YouTube channel handle, and it looks like she's a singer. So go subscribe to her channel, show her some support, listen to some of her songs. So she left this comment on the video I made probably a month or so ago when I was out fly fishing and had some tree knocks around the corner there and came running back. She says, okay, I'm going to assume that you were in Kentucky. Oh no, that was in Virginia, Central Virginia. She continues, I've grown up in Maysville, Kentucky my whole life, and I'm going to tell you, Sasquatch or Bigfoot or what some people call the big white thing has been around here since I was a kid. The first encounter with this thing was when I was 15 years old in Orangeburg, Kentucky. Ironically, my story goes back to about when I was 15, right outside of Maysville. Me and my cousin were sitting out on the back porch at the back of my aunt's house, and it was wooded back there, and we had a little creek that ran through it at the edge of the property line. It was about 3 in the morning, and we snuck out to smoke a cigarette. All of a sudden, we hear the awfulest sound you've ever heard. It was big and mean and mad. This thing was screaming, and it sounded like nothing we've ever heard. And it was in the creek bottom right in front of us. This thing was stomping the creek rock so hard it sounded like it was busting them into pieces. We were so scared, we ran back into the house and woke up my aunt and her husband, and he had hunted all his life. We told him something big was screaming outside, and he got his rifle and ran out the back door. This thing was still screaming. My aunt's husband just stopped and stood there. He said, I don't know what this thing is. He was scared. He said, get in the house and hurry. We all ran in, and we were so afraid of this thing. We were afraid it was going to run through the house. We sat up all night long waiting. I am not kidding. To this day, I still remember that sound. Then, about 10 years later, and she goes on to tell of another story that happened in the same area. She was dating a guy, and they were just out on some back roads, and they stopped because he had to take a leak. And he got out of the truck to do just that, and they were in a field, and she was looking up at the top of the field, and there was this huge brush pile up there. She says that it looks like somebody was getting ready to burn the brush pile, but it was night. She could see because of the moon. When she saw this thing with this huge head just stick its head out from around the side of the brush pile and just start staring at her and the guy she was with, she said she told the guy she was with, who was out there taking a leak, what she was seeing, and that he freaked out so much he almost fell down and broke his neck trying to get back into the truck so they could skedaddle out of there. So those are 2 stories from one individual coming from Kentucky. Again, folks, if you've got any stories associated with Bigfoot, Sasquatch, or anything paranormal, supernatural, ghosts, UFOs, alien abductions, anything that you would like to share, send it to the channel. The email address is crazylake@mail.com. Now, I may switch angles for you here because I've been hearing something walking around over here while I've been reading these stories. And if you followed this channel for any significant period of time, you know that sometimes strange beings may or may not try to creep up behind us in the woods to hear the stories. Hope the four-wheeler isn't blocking the view. All right, let's see. So let's, it's about right in there is where I was hearing something. All right, keep your eyes peeled, folks. So this is a story called Repression, and it's a Bigfoot Sasquatch story, of course. It is taken from Bigfoot Sasquatch Files, Volume 12. Available on Amazon in print and Kindle. The links are in the description box below. While going through some of these older stories, and this is from 2021, even though these events took place in the 1980s, I realized that Bigfoot Sasquatch Files Volume 11 are all Halloween-themed Bigfoot Sasquatch stories. So make sure you come back in October because we're going to read every single one of those here on the channel. It's going to be a lot of fun. I find myself suddenly grateful that I have to wear these glasses to read because can you see all these gnats flying around me? It's like I'm in just a thicket of gnats. All right. From Bigfoot Sasquatch Files, Volume 12, story called Repression. Memory, it's a pretty amazing thing. There are things we'll never forget. First bike, first fish caught, first kiss, well, you know what I mean. Yeah, then there are some pretty amazing things that, for the life of us, we cannot remember. It's probably a good thing we don't remember some of these amazing things because, though amazing, they probably weren't so good. Like some of the abuses that may have occurred to us when we were children, witnessing a tragic event like a deadly car wreck, or, in the case of this story, seeing, potentially, a Bigfoot Sasquatch. Recently, something happened in my life that is nothing short of a miracle. After having been estranged from all my birth family members and all of my childhood friends for more than a decade, I've reconnected with many of them. Two of my childhood best friends and some of my family members have come to visit my family and myself, and it's been great. Anyway, one of my childhood best friends and I had a conversation about a time in our youth when one of our other childhood friends died at the age of 12. This conversation would lead to the revelation that potentially I saw a Bigfoot Sasquatch when I was about 13 years old. Tragedy struck our small community back in Appalachia, and particularly in our neighborhood when another kid, just a couple of years younger than my friend and me, didn't return from a hike and fishing trip on the mountain above our house he'd gone on that day. A search party would find his body before the end of the day, and sadly, he was dead. It was later ruled that he had a heart condition that, though rare, almost always resulted in death before the teenage years. We were all heartbroken, especially this poor child's family. He had a brother and his parents were married, and in our small town, everyone knew everyone, so it was all just terrible. I remember that his father was too torn up to go to the funeral, so the entire football team went to this man's house to sit with him during the funeral and for many longer hours afterwards. I'll never forget that. That was one of the most sincere gestures I've ever witnessed. Comes now, town drunk / conspiracy theorist. That ain't how that boy died. I remember this creepy old man telling me and my friend who'd recently been here to visit. How did he die, we asked. He's seen something he ain't not a seen, the town drunk / conspiracy theorist said. Like what, we asked. The town drunk / conspiracy theorist looked at us, head tilted, one eye half cocked. He held our full attention for a full 5 seconds, and then he turned, having said nothing, and walked off. We were hooked on his conspiracy, whatever the hell it was. I bet it was pot farmers, I said. There were tons of people who grew marijuana in our part of Appalachia. Hell, the whole state. West by God, Virginia's #1 cash crop had always been marijuana. Even until now, 2021, which again was years ago when this was written, a year by which more than a dozen states, including my state of Virginia, have already legalized marijuana. West Virginia remains one of the states where it remains illegal so that the police can harass people. I'll tell you what, folks, if you haven't decriminalized it yet, just for the regulation and taxation of it, you are missing out on a major bounty. Last year, the state of Virginia had a surplus, I would say largely because of this, and they actually sent the taxpayers, i.e. me and everybody else that pays taxes, a refund because of the surplus. It's the first time since I've been a college student that I've ever gotten any money back from a taxation department. It wasn't the IRS. Of course, I'll never get money back from those bastards. paying, well, whatever. Not even going to get into that today. But yeah, the state of Virginia had a surplus. You're missing the boat. Let me tell you, you might have fun harassing people that can't afford attorneys, but it's more fun to be economically prosperous. Just my humble opinion. All right, continuing with the story. Let's go find it, my friend said. Let's just make sure they don't murder us too, if we do. And we were off. We were going off to find this secret pot farm. Because I tell you, you want to minimize crime, cut down on crime. There's not going to be armed guards out there killing people that find their plants. Because, I mean, right here, I may or may not have some growing in this field. All right. Because I can do so legally now, brah. Don't judge. All right. I knew exactly where the kid had been found because I'd hiked up and fished at the same location many times myself. It was about an hour-long hike straight up the side of the Appalachian Mountains to a series of beaver ponds on top, which were filled with wild brook trout. Just before you reach the ponds, there's a very rocky area that is covered with huge limestone boulders. There are tons of sinkholes and caves at this spot. We were walking through this area when it happened, when we saw potentially Bigfoot Sasquatch. My friend, while at my house recently, claims that something very large, hairy, and scary, and which walked on two legs, jumped up from the top of one of those boulders in the area into the trail ahead of us and then let out a loud, thunderous scream before turning and running off. You're full of crap, I told my friend that night, nearly 35 years after this alleged event took place. Seriously, dude, he said, that's why I'm not surprised you make all those Bigfoot Sasquatch videos on YouTube. I have no memory of that, I told my friend. I make those videos because potentially we have some around here. You know what they say, my friend said. They say that if you ever see a Bigfoot Sasquatch, the others can tell, and they'll start coming around. Is that what they say? I said. I think so, he said. Oh, I said, and we left it at that. My friend then went on to remind me that when this happened, when this humongous creature jumped off of the rock and into the trail in front of us and let out its mighty, thunderous roar, that I passed the hell out. Dude, he said as he retold the story, I was giving you mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. That's like the closest I've ever come to kissing another dude. Did you like it? I asked. F no, MFer, he said, and we left it at that. Only after my friend left did I remember the times, all those years ago, when I'd been fishing at this location before, and suddenly, two memories seemed to make much more sense to me. They are these. 1. Once, while hiking up to the ponds, I decided to explore some of the sinkholes and caves. I remember going back into a cave so far that if I'd gone any farther, I would have been surrounded by total darkness. Instead of proceeding, I stuck my hand into the darkness, patted the ground, and I felt fur. I pulled some of the fur out and took it outside and examined it in the full sunlight. It was brown, the same color of deer fur, but it was a bit longer and it wasn't straight like deer fur, like pine needles. It was curly, but not quite like pubic hair. I didn't put too much thought into it. I just left it at that. Number 2. Then there was another time, and I cannot remember if it was before or after this, the hair in the cave incident, but I was up at the beaver ponds fishing. I'd started at the bottom of the pond, slowly and methodically working my way upstream. Fish face upstream because the water flows through their gills this way, and it enables them to breathe without effort. So if one hopes to stand any chance of catching them, one must work their way upstream, coming at the fish from behind. Brook trout are especially skittish. If the wind blows and a branch hanging over their hole moves, these small, extremely wild fish will often dart up under the bank or a log or a rock, and they will remain hidden for an hour or more, just from detecting movement from a branch. So you can only imagine how stealthy one must be while working their way upstream. Anyway, I remember there was a giant beaver hut, or at least what appeared to be a giant beaver hut, at the head of the ponds. I could see it clearly from about 200 yards downstream while I was fishing my way upstream. Beside this large hut, there appeared to be a smaller hut. At least that's what I thought it was the first time I noticed it. However, as I made my way closer to the large hut, it appeared as if the smaller hut was moving. At first, I thought I was crazy. I've been accused of such, you know. But I kept my eyes on this smaller hut, and sure enough, as I made my way upstream, this smaller hut, which I was now convinced was not a hut, but some sort of living creature, was making its way toward me. At one point, I can remember clearly seeing ripples in the water from where this smaller hut was moving. By this point, when I saw the ripples, I knew that this was not a small mobile beaver hut. This was some sort of creature, and it was making its way toward me, and it was doing it in such a way that it was obvious that it did not want me to detect its movement. I realized it was stalking me. At that point, I started making my way back downstream, even though I'd not caught a single trout. But my spidey senses were up. I knew that I was no longer the one doing the stalking, of the small fish at least, but that, as I just stated, I was the one being stalked. I'd never done the math and put two and two together until my long-lost friend told me the story of the time the potential Bigfoot Sasquatch jumped off of that boulder in the trail ahead of us and scared us so badly that I had both passed out and obviously repressed the entire memory. Strange, unidentifiable hair in a cave, something large and brown that wasn't a beaver stalking me down the stream. It all adds up, all these years later, to potentially Bigfoot Sasquatch. Or was it all simply something else? We may never know. Or perhaps we already do. Two things are for sure. I truly enjoyed my time spent reconnecting with my long-lost friend, and we've remained in contact, texting and talking near daily since that time. And number two, I'll never go back to those beaver ponds again. Potentially. So folks, I hope you enjoyed these stories. Again, I want to thank Stephanie for submitting hers there from Kentucky. If you have one you'd like to hear, and we have had several come in over just the last couple of nights, and I will be reading them very soon. Trying to get more of this done now that my kid's no longer being homeschooled. And that my beautiful bride, Dearly, a.k.a. Giggly Girl, has her driver's license now, and her cute little Mercedes-Benz I got her as a reward for, getting her license. I have time to, breathe. And part of something else I want to do while I'm breathing is get back to making YouTube videos a little bit more consistently than I have been lately. So send me your stories. The email address is crazylake@mail.com. And if you want to read hundreds and hundreds and oodles and doodles and boodles and gazoogles of Bigfoot Sasquatch stories, check out the Bigfoot Sasquatch files in print or Kindle available on Amazon. The link is in the description box below. And with all that said, I want to thank you for your time spending it here with me at the most awesomest homesteading channel on the planet that typically doesn't have anything whatsoever to do with homesteading at all. Homesteading off the grid. See you for more next time.